had a niece visiting from the UK, and meeting her at the airport, we then took the train to our Airbnb at Milson's Point. Our Airbnb was a high-rise on the left-hand side here. We could see the bridge, Darling Harbour, and up the harbour itself. After a few hours rest, we decided to take a walk down Alfred Street to the point and to look out across to the city and the Opera House. Then we looked back past the ferry terminal, Luna Park, and along the Peter Kingston walkway around Lavender Bay before we returned. Walking down Alpha Street towards the point, we come past the Luna Park sign, and because the swimming pool was being rebuilt, we had to cross over and walk on the other side underneath the bridge. But the view from the lookout is still classic. And the walk around Lavender Bay was very pleasant. On the Friday morning, we left the Airbnb and walked down to the ferry wharf and took the ferry to Circular Quay. And from there it's just a short walk to the Police Museum, then on towards the Opera House for some lunch before walking around the Opera House, then heading back home. Now, Sydney ferries are a great way to get around the harbour. From Circular Quay, it's just a very short walk up to the Police Museum, and we had some fun during the tour around the courthouse and charge room. And of course the cells were welcoming as ever, although they did have some great displays. Then it was a walk around Circular Quay for lunch before walking on to the Opera House. Then it was back home on the ferry. On the Saturday morning, we headed back towards Circular Quay, then up to the Rocks, where we had lunch, and then through the city to Hyde Park Barracks. Now, our walk started with the old stairs at Cumberland Place. We had actually planned to visit the Susanna Place Museum and the old houses from the mid-1800s. Not the most affluent of places, but sadly there was actually a street fair going on. There's a long queue, so we decided to just keep walking along to the end of Gloucester Street and climbed up the stairs to the bridge. And of course, as we'd expect, the bridge has great views over the harbour. After lunch at the Rocks, we walked across the city and up to the Hyde Park Barracks. Now, you can actually spend many hours in this museum. There's some absolutely brilliant displays. On the way back we stopped at the Macquarie Place, saw the anchor from the Ceres, one of the First Fleet boats. On the Monday morning we got the ferry back to Circular Quay, then we walked past the Upper House and into the Botanical Gardens, around Farm Cove and on to Mr. Macquarie's chair. Then we walked past the Boy Carlton Pool and back to Circular Quay through the Botanical Gardens. I think this walk actually just speaks for itself. My Fort Denison, or Pinch Gut, as it became known because of the harsh conditions that unruly convicts were left therein. The island was originally over 50 feet high. Later a gallows was erected there in 1893. Francis Morgan was hung there and his body hung around for 4 years. Some of the stone was used from there to build the Benelong Point, where the Opera House now is. Then we arrived at Mrs. Macquarie's chair. We continued walking around past the Boy Charlton Pool and back into the Botanical Gardens. Then we went back to Circular Quay and got the ferry across to Manly for lunch. And of course, on the way in the ferry, you pass Pinch Gut. On return from Manly, we took the ferry around to Darling Harbour to visit the Sydney Aquarium, where we watched all the wonders in this great aquarium. Penguins, which look awkward on land, underwater are beautiful swimmers. Not to mention the reef sharks, or the leopard shark. And of course, the Reds put on a beautiful ballet. Today, on the Tuesday, we left Milson's Point on our beautiful view out over the harbour to head to Katoomba in the Blue Mountains. First stop was Wentworth Falls Lookout over the Jemison Valley. We could also see the creek heading down to the falls, so we decided to head down the track to have a look. then we settled into our lovely little cottage. Now the Wednesday morning started with a visit to Echo Point and the Three Sisters, with more great views over the Jameson Valley. And of course, choppers were flying around, bringing in maintenance materials. And then we head over to Scenic World and the Skyway. And of course the Skyway has a glass floor. Then it was onto the Scenic Railway down to the valley floor. Maximum degrees about 62 degrees, I think. Before this nice railway, there was an old railway which wasn't quite as comfortable or safe. Then we walked past the old coal mine before doing a walk along the valley floor. And we returned to Echo Point and to get the Three Sisters in a better light in the late afternoon. Then on Thursday morning, we headed up to Bathurst and on the Gulgong after stopping to look at Evans Lookout over the Grand Canyon of Blackheath. What a very pleasant week